By a show of hands, how many of you believe you could replicate this image of Brad Pitt with just a pencil and piece of paper? Well, I'm going to show you how to do this. And in so doing, I'm going to give you the skill necessary to become a world-class artist. And it shouldn't take more than about 15 seconds. But before I do that, how many of you believe you could replicate this image of a solid gray square? Every one of us. And if you can make one gray square, you can make 2, 3, 9. Truth of the matter is, if you could make just one gray square, it'd be very difficult to argue that you couldn't make every gray square necessary to replicate the image in its entirety. And there you have it. I've just given you the skill necessary to become a world-class artist. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's not real art. Certainly wouldn't make me a world-class artist. So let me introduce you to Chuck Close. He's one of the highest earning artists in the entire world for decades, and he creates his art using this exact technique. You see, what stands between us and achieving even our most ambitious dreams has far less to do with possessing some magical skill or talent, and far more to do with how we approach problems and make decisions to solve them. And because of the continuous and compounding nature of all those millions of decisions that we face on a regular basis, even a marginal improvement in our process can have a huge impact on our end results. And I'll prove this to you by taking a look at the career of Novak Djokovic. Back in 2004, when he first became a professional tennis player, he was ranked 680th in the world. It wasn't until the end of his third year that he jumped up to be ranked third in the world. He went from making $250,000 a year to $5 million a year in prize money alone, and of course he did this by winning more matches. In 2011, he became the #1 ranked men's tennis player in the world, started earning an average of $14 million a year in prize money alone, and winning a dominating 90% of his matches. Now here's what's really interesting about all of these very impressive statistics. Novak doesn't control any of them. What he does control are all the tiny little decisions that he needs to make correctly along the way in order to move the probability in favor of him achieving these types of results. And we can quantify and track his progress in this area by taking a look at the percentage of points that he wins. Because in tennis, the typical point involves 1 to maybe 3 decisions. I like to refer to this as his decision success rate. So back when he was winning about 49% of the matches he was playing, he was winning about 49% of the points he played. Then to jump up, become #3 in the world, and actually earn $5 million a year for swinging a racket, he had to improve his decision success rate to just 52%. Then to become not just #1, but maybe one of the greatest players to ever play the game, he had to improve his decision success rate to just 55%. Now, I keep using this word just. I don't want to imply this is easy to do. Clearly, it's not. But the type of marginal improvements that I'm talking about are easily achievable by every single one of us in this room. And I'll show you what I mean. From kindergarten all the way through to my high school graduation, yes, that's high school graduation for me, every one of my report cards basically said the same thing. Stephen's a very bright young boy. If only he would just settle down and focus. What they didn't realize was I wanted that even more than they wanted it for me. I just couldn't. And so from kindergarten straight through the second year of college, I was a really consistent C student. But then going into my junior year, I'd had enough. I thought, I want to make a change. I'm going to make a marginal adjustment. And I'm going to stop being a spectator in my decision-making and start becoming an active participant. And so that year, instead of pretending again that I would suddenly be able to settle down and focus on things for more than 5 or 10 minutes at a time, I decided to assume I wouldn't. And so if I wanted to achieve the type of outcome that I desired, doing well in school, I was going to actually have to change my approach. And so I made a marginal adjustment. If I would get an assignment, let's say read 5 chapters in a book, I wouldn't think of it as 5 chapters. I wouldn't even think of it as 1 chapter. I would break it down into these tasks that I could achieve that would require me to focus for just 5 or 10 minutes at a time. So maybe 3 or 4 paragraphs, that's it. I would do that. When I was done with those 5 or 10 minutes, I would get up. I'd go shoot some hoops, do a little drawing, maybe play video games for a few minutes. And then I'd come back. Not necessarily to the same assignment, not even necessarily to the same subject, but just to another task that required just 5 to 10 minutes of my attention. From that point forward, all the way through to graduation, I was a straight A student. Dean's List, President's Honor Roll, every semester. I then went on to one of the top graduate programs in the world for finance and economics. Same approach, same results. So then I graduate. I start my career, and I'm thinking, this worked really well for me. You know, you take these big concepts, these complex ideas, these big assignments, you break them down to much more manageable tasks. And then along the way, you make a marginal improvement to the process, you nudge the odds of success in your favor. I'm going to try and do this in my career. So I did. I started out as an exotic derivatives trader at Credit Suisse. It then led me to be global head of currency option trading for Bank of America, global head of emerging markets for AIG International. It helped me deliver top-tier returns as a global macro hedge fund manager for 12 years and to become founder and CIO of 2 award-winning hedge funds. So it gets to 2001, and I'm thinking, this whole idea, it worked really well in school. It's been serving me well as a professional. Why aren't I applying this in my personal life? Like to all those big, ambitious goals I have for myself. So one day, I'm walking to work, and at the time, my commute was a walk from one end of Hyde Park to the other in London. It took me about 45 minutes each way. Hour and a half a day, 7.5 hours a week, 30 hours a month, 360 hours a year when I was awake, aware, basically wasting time listening to music on my iPod. So on my way home from work that day, I stopped at the store. I picked up the first 33 CDs in the Pimsleur German language program, ripped them and put them onto my iPod. But I didn't stop there. Because the truth of the matter is, I'm an undisciplined person. And I knew that at some point, I'd switch away from the language and go back to the music. So I removed that temptation by removing all of the music. It left me with just one option: listen to the language tapes. So 10 months later, I'd listened to all 99 CDs in the German language program, listened to each one 3 times each. I then went to Berlin for a 16-day intensive German course. When I was done, I invited my wife and kids to meet me. We walked around the city. I spoke German to the Germans. They spoke German back to me. My kids were amazed. I mean, that couldn't close their jaws. But you and I, we know there's actually nothing amazing about what I just done. I made this marginal adjustment to my daily routine, this marginal adjustment to my process. Und jetzt, ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch. And now I can speak some German. And so in that moment, I'm thinking, it's not supposed to be this easy for a guy like me, an old guy, to learn a new language. You're supposed to have to do that when you're a kid. And yet here I had done it, this marginal adjustment. So what other big, ambitious goals I've been holding on to, putting off until retirement, that I could potentially achieve if I just made a marginal adjustment to my routine? So I started doing them. I earned my auto racing license. I learned how to fly a helicopter, did rock climbing, skydiving, and learned how to fly planes aerobatically. But what I want you to realize when you hear these things, I'm still that C- student. I'm still that kid who can't settle down or focus for more than 5 or 10 minutes at a time, and I remain a guy who possesses no special gift of talent or skill. All I do is take really big, ambitious projects that people seem to marvel at, break them down to their simplest form, and then just make marginal improvements along the way to improve my odds of achieving them. And so the whole reason I'm giving this talk is I'm hoping to inspire several of you to pull some of those ambitious dreams that you have for yourself off the bookshelf and start pursuing them by making that marginal adjustment to your routine. Thank you.
Great knife skills are essential to becoming a better cook. It's really the basis of everything that you're gonna do in the kitchen. This is truly a skill you'll use every day with just about everything you cook. Okay, so first things first, before you even start chopping, you wanna make sure that your cutting board is secure. A wobbly cutting board can result in your knife slipping and injuries happening. So an easy fix is to place a damp paper towel underneath your cutting board. You can also get a non-slip mat to put under the cutting board, or you can get a cutting board with grips. The next important thing is to make sure you're gripping your knife properly. If you put your finger on top of the knife, if you hold too far back on the handle, if you have a dainty grip, those are all incorrect ways. You want to put your finger and your thumb at the very back of the knife and wrap your fingers around it. That way you have a firm grip, and when you chop, you're going to be in control of what you're doing. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but with time, it'll become second nature to you. So one common mistake when you're chopping is to have all your fingers laid flat. As you can see, my fingers are in danger of getting cut off. You actually want to form a claw so that your fingers go in and the knife will hit up against your knuckles as you're chopping. So with this claw, your fingertips are going to be protected the whole time, and it's actually going to give you support as you're chopping. Another common mistake is the slicing motion. If you just chop really aggressively down like this, you're not going to get a nice, even cut. You really want to do a rocking motion when you cut, going back and forth with the knife. Think about it like a wave. So now that you know how to hold a knife properly, we're going to demonstrate a few common cuts that you see in recipes. We're going to start out with a dice. So for an onion, which is probably the most common thing you're going to dice, you want to cut it in half first, right through the root end. So the next step is to peel the outer layers, making sure that the root end is still intact. So with dicing, you want to make sure that the flat side is down, so it'll give you the most stability. Making sure we have that claw grip, make a few incisions horizontally into the onion. Then you're going to turn the onion towards you with the root side furthest away. And again with that claw, make a few cuts vertically. Turn the onion again and use your knuckles as a guide. And you're going to start chopping along and just do that same nice chopping wave motion down. And then look, you've got an even dice. This is an example of a large dice. Here we've got a medium dice. And over here, we've got a small dice. So in most recipes, when you just see something that says dice, it should be a medium size. The next cut we're going to show you is mincing. The most common of these is minced garlic. You want to remove the root end. And again, remember, we're always using that little claw. The next step is to place the garlic under the blade and then smash down. Then you're going to peel the garlic. The papery skin should fall right off. And then again, use that claw, use that same wave motion, and you're just going to repeat this a ton of times. I mean, you can use your fingers on the other side of the blade to help stabilize you, and then gently scrape it off. With mincing, the finer the mince, the more flavorful your dish is going to be. And it should really be tiny. Anything bigger than this would be a fine chop. Similar to dicing, mincing is a really common cut. You can use it in so many preparations. So dicing and mincing are the most common cuts you'll see in recipes, but we're going to show you a few other cuts in case you want to get fancy. Next up is chiffonade, which is most commonly used with herbs. We're going to show you with some basil. So first, you're going to stack basil leaves in a pile. Then you're going to roll them up from the top all the way down in a really tight cigar shape. So it looks like that. And then again, not to sound redundant, but you're going to use that same motion and just do really, really thin slices. A common mistake when you're doing the chiffonade cut is to not use enough force. You want to make sure to fully slice down, and if you do it correctly, it should look like these beautiful ribbons. Chiffonade is a really pretty cut, but it's really a vanity cut. You typically use it to garnish dishes. The next cut we're going to show you is julienne, which is most commonly used with carrots, but you can do it with all sorts of things. So to julienne a carrot, you want to cut it into about 2-inch segments. We're going to just start with one for now. To start, you want to create a flat base. Once you've cut that flat part off, put the flat part down on the cutting board so you have more stability. Then I want to make 1/8 inch equal slices down. Next, stack the carrots up like building blocks. You can also divide the carrot stacks up into 2 parts so it's a little easier to manage. And then again, you're going to want to make equal 1/8 inch slices down. And then you should get these beautiful, equally sized matchsticks. Julienning is not a super common cut. You'd primarily see it in raw preparation like slaw or something like a quick pickle. It's really great because you wouldn't want a huge bite of pickled carrot, but with a julienne or a matchstick, it's just the right amount of tang. Next up, we're going to show you the oblique cut, also called a roll cut, which you will see why momentarily. First, you want to trim the end off diagonally. So right now the diagonal is facing towards you, so you just want to rotate it so that the diagonal is going away from you. And you're going to make a diagonal cut, so you're kind of creating this triangle shape. Then you roll the carrot again and cut. And then you're gonna keep rolling. One of the great things about this cut is that this carrot isn't even all the way through, but with this cut, all the pieces are going to be about even size and they're gonna cook evenly. It's a lot of even. You can use it to roast, steam, saute. It's incredibly versatile. It's also a fun shape. It's not used that often anymore, but it's really pretty and people should use it more. Now that you know the proper way to hold and use your knife, you'll be better equipped in the kitchen. And practice makes perfect. Start off slowly, make sure you're using the proper form, and the more you do this, the easier it'll get, the faster you'll be, and you'll be a pro in no time. Also, on a basic level, you're not going to chop your fingers off, which I think we can all agree is a great thing.
We're starting off 2017 with some amazing music this year. Today we're going to be learning Shape of You by Ed Sheeran off of his new album Divide. This song has been replaying on my Spotify like crazy, so let's go ahead and get into the tutorial. So I figured out a really cool version for you guys with a capo here on the 2nd fret. I know Ed Sheeran does not use a capo, but I figured some of you that are just starting to learn guitar, like it's your New Year's resolution and you're just beginning, bar chords are probably tough for you right now. I still want you to learn your bar chords, by the way. This version still has a bar chord in it, but I figured it would be better for those of you that are still new to bar chords and new to guitar in general. So instead of playing like 3 to 4 bar chords and making it really, really hard on you, just one would be enough of a challenge and would be pretty easy to grasp. And fun fact, the guitar that plays in the original track isn't actually playing any chords at all. It's actually just playing this. And the only other thing that you actually hear is this other instrument. I'm not sure exactly what it is. Maybe it's a keyboard with some cool like effect on it, but it has a few notes that just repeat over and over, and it sounds like this. So if you have a loop pedal, this would be a great song to play because you could just play that little riff right there and then just add right on top of it, and that's basically all you would need. And then you could actually just play the chords and sing along with it, and it would be so cool. And then you could add in the oh ah oh ah oh ah oh ah, and you could do so many cool things. So if you have a loop pedal, bring it out and have some fun. So I figure you guys probably want to learn that little picking section, so I'm gonna go ahead and teach that to you right now. So let's go ahead and hop to close up. So this picking pattern is really simple, really repetitive. We're gonna go ahead and start here on the 4th fret on the G string, and this is all relative to the capo. So capo on 1st fret, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. So we're gonna start here, and the G string is the only string that we are going to be picking for this entire picking pattern here. So we're gonna go ahead and just pick it once. And then our pinky finger is gonna help us transition onto that 7th fret. So we have, then we're gonna go back to the 4th fret, back to the 7th. So far, this is what we have. Then we go ahead and just repeat that again. So far. And then we're going to end it with, so it's 4, 6, 4, 2. So all together, so I'll take it a little bit slower. that's it, really easy to play. All right, so on to chords here, we have 4 chords that repeat over and over and over throughout the entire song, so I'm gonna go ahead and show this to you now. Starting off, we have a B minor. We have an E minor. A G major. And an A major. Alright, on to strumming, I have one pattern for you guys. Now if you find that it's too difficult for you right now, you can just resort to doing single, simple down strums and then just build your way up. But I'm going to go ahead and show you what the pattern sounds like. So it's down, up, mute, down. So we have down, up, mute, down for each chord. So down, up, mute, down. And I'm just playing it with, no chord right now. But we'll just go ahead and add the G major on here. So it'll sound like this. So down, up, mute, down. That mute's just gonna add, that beat in there, and it's gonna sound really awesome. Our chord progression is from B minor to E minor to G major to A major, and all over again for every verse, every chorus, every pre-chorus, the bridge, the outro, everything. Super simple. So I'll just play a little sample for you here and then we'll actually get into a little bit of the song. So that is exactly what it is going to sound like. So before we actually get into the rest of the tutorial, I actually have a printable lesson available for Shape of You. It's essentially a follow along to this lesson. It is a guide of this entire tutorial here. So if you would like to receive a copy, I will link my Patreon page down below. So now let's go ahead and actually play a little bit of the song. The club isn't the best place to find a lover, so the bar is where I go. Me and my friends at the table doing shots, drinking fast and we talk slow. Come over and start a conversation with just me, and trust me, I'll give it a chance. Now take my hand, stop a band on a jukebox, and then we start to dance. I'm singing like, girl, you know I want your love. Your love is handmade for somebody like me. Come on now, follow my lead. I may be crazy, don't mind me. Say, boy, let's not talk too much. Grab on my waist and put that body on me. Come on now, follow my lead. Come on now, follow my lead. Alright, so that's how you play Shape of You by Ed Sheeran. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, don't forget to give it a huge thumbs up. And if you are new to my videos, you should totally hit subscribe. And if you are subscribed and you don't have your notifications turned on, you should definitely turn on your notifications. So that way you guys know when I post new tutorials, because sometimes I get requests for songs that I've already posted, and I think it's because you guys don't have your notifications turned on. Feel free to leave any song requests down below so I can figure out what the heck I'm going to teach you guys next, but I feel like that is pretty much it for today's video. Don't forget to go to my new website. I will link it down below. You guys should totally check that out. I have a blog that I post on, and there's just a ton of really cool stuff over there that you guys should just go look at. Alright guys, thanks for hanging out, and I will see you in the next tutorial.